All right, 3, 2.
Hi, welcome to Simple Talks podcast. This is a coffee chat episode. Today I have a guest that you'll probably know if you're in the SQL Server or Oracle community at the very least, and probably other communities. She's been around a while. I don't know if she's been around as long as I've been around, but who has, right? And we have a few rules in this show. First off, the only politics we talk about is Oracle versus Postgres versus SQL Server. And the only religion we talk about is whether Oracle really is the Oracle of all databases or if it's just another database system. So I'm going to go ahead and bring the guest in. For those of you on the radio, it's Kellyn Gorman. Hello, Kellyn. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm okay.
It's Friday. It's like the day off.
It's Friday. There's a dog barking, so that's awesome. I mean, how happy can you be that there's a dog serenading you?
I know. It's a Chihuahua. Chihuahuas do that constantly, or they hurt big dogs' feelings. It's their jobs. I'm kind of like a Chihuahua myself. It's something to live up to.
Now, I don't think this is going to be quite the dog episode we had a couple of times ago with Scott Stauffer, but right, you don't have like a whole bevy of dog pictures.
No, I don't train guide dogs. No. I just go out and stalk Scott so I can see the guide dogs.
I'll admit I've known you for a little bit, but not that much. So there's a few questions in here I don't know the answers to. I've like you're not supposed to ask a question you don't know the answer to. And I probably should have went out and found out your hobbies and likes and dislikes.
So I can make up stuff.
I haven't done that.
I can make up stuff. Oh, cool. This will be fun. Anyway.
That would be a good fun quiz, right? Have all the people comment back. That's not true. She lied.
Yeah. 2 things that are true and 1 things that are lie. Yeah.
She hates dogs. I don't know. Who knows? Does anybody hate dogs?
Well, there's that Chihuahua down there that if it keeps barking, we'll talk about that. So
we're not going to talk about what you do to the dog to make it quiet.
No, give it a treat. But anyway.
All right. So the goal here is we have a little quiz. I have 5 questions I ask the guests. I work with you now at Redgate, and it's been a great thing. You've been here, what, 5 months, 4 or 5 months?
So if you count me as an employee versus a contractor 10 months, 11 months, employee, it's been 5 months.
Okay. That's, I was starting to think I've only been here 2.5 years, so it can't be that long. And the first question I always ask people is, what is your origin story? Because I've ran across one person so far who said they wanted to be in data. I did not want to be in data. I wanted to be far many things before I landed on data. Even when I got to college, I was not into data until after college. I got a job and I got tired of climbing under desks, pulling wires, and I was offered a job to work in data. So how did you get here? What led you to this place?
I do have a pretty bizarre history in how I ended up an accidental technologist, as we refer to it.
That's why I love this question.
Yeah. I actually was to be a journalist, didn't work out. And then I became an auditor. And I was doing all right in that career, but then had a medical condition that ended up resulting in strokes. And I had 5 strokes. As my brain was recovering, I was working in a shoe store, Kinney Shoes, selling shoes. Brain was kind of healing. And 2 of my coworkers went to go work at Circuit City. And those 2 coworkers said, you should hire Kevlar too. And I was like, Kevlar? Yeah, that girl over there, we call her Kevlar because she's bulletproof. She's recovering from strokes. And they're like, you mean the girl with the speech impediment? And they're like, yeah. So I went into the computer department at Circuit City and started selling computers. The first day, they weren't so sure how it was going to go, but I made $1,000 in commission. They're like, she's going to be fine. But I also started to figure out as my brain was healing that I had a knack for computers. I started to learn a lot about hardware. I started fixing hardware. Then we figured out that I had a knack for software. And I was fixing desktop software at that point, just installations there. And I was taking care of customers that were like in real estate. I had this whole customer base. And my ex-husband, my kid's father at the time, he was doing desktop support himself. He was self-taught. He's like, honey, I got guys who can't load Windows at a C prompt. You could go pro anytime you want. So I ended up going out for a contract position at the company that was US West, then became Quest, and it is now CenturyLink. So it's changed since the old Ma Bell days. And I ended up working there. And the thing that I noticed, because I had come from this background where I had to relearn a lot of things after my strokes, I wasn't afraid to try. I wasn't afraid to fail. And so I took on the things that nobody else would touch, which of course ended up being database software. Nobody wanted to go anywhere near that. Sybase, Oracle connections, any of the software that was doing that. And Oracle had found out that I had more than one 16-bit software application connecting inside Windows 95. They wanted to come in and see how I was doing it. Came in and looked at my scripts that were switching out the WinINI. And they said, we're really short DBAs. Could you make a DBA out of her? So US West put me through my certification classes. I started there as a DBA, but I really wasn't doing DBA work. I wasn't in any kind of databases. I was really doing more change control work. And then Duke Energy said, we will take you right now as a DBA. And I was like, I've never logged into a database. They said, you're fine. Came on board Duke Energy, and they handed me my first database, and I'm trying to log into it. I'm like, this doesn't look like it did in my certification classes. And they're like, oh, that's because it's SQL Server. And I had this 7 terabyte SQL Server 7, this massive, massive active system. So I got this introduction into SQL Server that was just insane. And at the same time, they handed me a whole bunch of Oracle databases, and I took on the Sybase, whatever everybody said. I don't want to work on that. I'll be like, I'll take it, So I became multi-platform right out of the gate. I was accustomed to not knowing what I was doing at any given time and just learning on the fly. And because I wasn't afraid of failing, I had a tendency to take on those environments that people are like, it's never going to run. It's never going to work. It's an utter failure. And I took that as a challenge. So I became known for fixing things that people said would never work. Made a career of that.
So we haven't established how long we've worked at this, but I started at Radio Shack right before I got my first programming job. And you worked at Circuit City.
Who's no longer in business. Yeah. I'm at a quarter of a century, well, really 27 years as a DBA. And I was in desktop support for 2.5 years before that. So I have a child that's 30 years old who has been in tech as long as I have. Who has been alive as long as I've been in tech. Let's say that the right way.
That's a little.
That makes more sense.
Whoa, wait a minute. No, I don't compare that. I did not.
Sammy was a newborn when I went into my first tech job.
And I'm emphasizing this not because I want to say how old I am or make this some sort of contest.
I look great at my age. It's all right.
But what I do want to note is you started out in like the most humblest, simplest way. You got tossed this job. Okay. And the idea behind this whole coffee chat, the first 20% of this thing is to say, there are so many ways you can come into this. Some people got degrees. Some people got lucky. Some people, I know Eric Darling, one of the people I've had on previously, didn't start out to be a database administrator.
Yeah.
Just got into it and just got into it. And have made such great careers out of this that it's amazing.
I love tech. I don't think that you have the opportunities today like we did back when I started, that they were short DBAs so much at that point that they were willing to offer somebody like myself who did not have a computer science degree, did not have a degree in mathematics to do something like this. That they were willing to learn on the job. And even the group at US West that paid for my certification training, I was so surprised when they had done that they had taken out of their budget. I didn't even work for that group. And they said, you banged your head against the wall for so long and figured this out. We felt you deserved to be part of our training budget. I'm like, thank you. I'm going to pay back that loan I just took out then. Thank you so much. I mean, you recognize that you're willing to put in that effort and learn this and understand it and really live and breathe it. That's a huge difference, I think, for other even industries that you may not need to know as much or learn constantly day in and day out.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. So the next question is, what tech do you really love? You're like, I just can't wait to get up in the morning because I've got this to work with.
Gosh, that
Don't tell me what
question
you
kind
don't
of
want to
went,
work with, okay? Because that might get us
yeah,
in trouble.
yeah, no, I love InfoSec. I think people are really surprised by that because I'm a database administrator, but I'm very fascinated with all of the breaches that are going on these days. And to really consider where AI can take us. And I know everybody's like, oh, she said that term AI, but
It's shocking I don't have a banner that falls down from the sky when the word AI
yes,
comes up.
yeah. And there's people at home listening to this podcast and they may be taking a shot every time somebody says AI. Exactly. Exactly. AI may be helpful to the solution and the I guess you'd say the hackers, the wrongdoers, the bad players that are out there that are stealing our data day in and day out. I became just traumatized as I started signing myself up for all these InfoSec newsletters and understanding how much data was being stolen day in and day out. Knowing that, we just had 1.6 billion in cryptocurrency stolen this week. Somebody just made 1.6 billion. I'm like going, could it have been me? Could I have gotten that? I would have loved to have just had that. But that we have 2.3 billion users that was stolen this week out of healthcare. That we have 49,000 that authentication of users across just main systems that you log into that are vulnerable right now. This is this week. This is just this week that this happened. There are stories every single day that I read, and it's just one after another. We need to step up our game. We absolutely need to step up our game. And at the same time, I'm watching a lot of cloud vendors, a lot of organizations either let go their cybersecurity or not invest in their cybersecurity. So that amazes me. And at the same time, I am totally invested in some of these new technologies that are coming out that are utilizing AI in a way that are to help identify bad players quicker, that are out there making some of our products better, especially some of them that are starting to lock down, like I'm just going to say it, Copilot, OpenAI. There's large language models that can be completely compromised and that they're recognizing this and they're taking a forefront step on this. That's excellent.
I'm going to just stutter here a minute because now I'm
You
just
didn't
terrified.
expect that one
Just
from
be
me.
terrified
Yeah.
because it is kind of terrifying the things that people can do with our data.
A lot of us have become numb. We're getting that next letter in the mail saying this data has been breached that belongs to you. They got your PII, they got your healthcare data, they got your financial data. People are just like, it's another letter, and they throw it in the garbage and they just go on with their day-to-day life. But I remember a time, if you gotten one of those letters 10 years ago, you thought your life was over. You were receiving these options from those same companies saying, we will give you 2 years of data protection. We're going to do something about this. Now it's, oh, it was just another one. I mean, the numbness is just amazing to me at this point.
And people wonder why we don't answer their text messages and calls anymore.
I find that one very fascinating too. How many companies still use blind text to say, respond to me? Nobody's doing that. They're sure it's a phishing scam. No.
I actually got one this week from a judge he was doing a survey. I didn't respond to it, but I started looking. It turned out to be a real one. But it
Yeah.
came from just a number. It said, we'd like you to fill in this form. Click here. And the URL is, and heaven help them, the short URLs are great for being short, but they're terrible for hiding what I'm going to click on.
Exactly.
And who knows
Exactly.
what's going to happen when I click on that. And I mean, if you can see the video, I'm a little older, got the gray hair, So I'm a little
And
older,
it's
but
getting
I'm
grayer every time somebody
savvier.
sends you one of
I
those
cannot
text
get
messages.
any grayer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I just dye mine, dude. It's you can just add dye, it fixes it.
I'm very tech savvy, so I know not to click on things but there's so many people that don't. And some of them, I was reading an article the other day about how the better they get, the more likely you are to click on them. It terrifies me sometimes how if these hackers just spend a little more time, they do so much better job. Because a lot of these emails have like misspellings and spaces and things.
Exactly.
They're trying not to look like spam somehow. I don't know how that
Grammar
gets
issues.
spam.
Yeah.
You'd think there'd be a spam filter out there that said, lots of misspellings. This is not your grandmother. Throw it away. But yeah. Or if they just work that hard at doing something good, how can they not be doing really well if they are this good?
Oh yeah. They're amazing. They're amazing. And they always are trying to find something new to try to fool people with. And I keep wondering, I'm like, couldn't you use your powers for good?
So we're gonna leave this terrifying tale of tormented data, and we're gonna move along to I couldn't come up with any more alliteration there. And we're gonna talk about the case where Kellyn is sitting there trying to do something, and it's one of those things that you actually don't know, right? Because there's got to be at least one or two things about technology you don't know, right? You don't know yet.
There's a lot of stuff I don't
What do
know.
you learn about? Where's your go-to place to learn when you say I need to learn something? How do you do that?
I have a tendency not to be real trusting. Hard to believe. Hard to believe. But I want more than one resource that's telling me the same answers. I want to see a trend. I want to see analysis that says this is the answer. So even if I'm using, let's say, Claude, ChatGPT, doing a search with Google, all of these, I want to see those answers come together, that there is a trend, an analysis that says this is the right answer. I often want to be able to try it out myself. So even if I'm learning about something new, I read a blog post about it, say it's about Oracle. I'm going to try it out in my own Oracle database. If it's somebody asked me the other day about something in PostgreSQL that I knew about that they were very surprised, and I come up with it. I think it was PG Edge. And I just downloaded the extension and tested with it when I was doing some benchmarking. And one of my friends, Jeremy, just said, where did you come across PG Edge? I was just doing searches in Google. It came up that was the right solution. Other people verified it. So I decided to play around with it and test it. I like to be able to test things out. I like to be able to get my hands dirty and really make sure that it follows through with what I see. When a developer comes and asks me a question, and even if I think 99.9, I know that answer, I'll probably go test it out anyway too. Has anything changed? Is there something I don't know about? Did I not take something into consideration?
Oh,
So
man,
I have a
this feels too
tendency to test
familiar.
out.
This feels too familiar.
Yeah.
I do the same stuff all the time.
Yeah. I want to test it out. I want to verify and prove that I'm right. And I always have. I've had that need, not just to say something. But I also find I get really, really annoyed after doing all that work, and then people don't believe me, or people go and ask other people, and I'm like, I just went and did all this footwork, and they may not know that. They may not know that I went through all that research, that I went and tested it out. But I'll get annoyed by it. I'll get really annoyed. I'm like, why ask me questions then if you're not even going to listen to me? But yeah, that's how I learned.
Oh my.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is you start these days with something like an AI and then try it out yourself. Do you look at other blogs? Do you like presentations? Do you like video learning? Do you like
I
do you ever
like
just read
some video
blogs for the heck of
learning.
it?
Yeah, I like some video learning, but if it takes too long for the video for them to get to the answer I want, my ADHD gets just a little too impatient. I like slides if I can jump to the answer that I need. Because my brain has, I'm just going to say it, so much in it and so many platforms in it, I keep what I need to know, not just everything. So I'll get annoyed. I want just the facts. I want to know what I need to know and get to that and then dig in from there to build on that. So if there's too much fluff around it, I won't watch a video. I won't watch online trainings. I won't watch video presentations or anything like that.
Interesting. I assume you go to presentations. Do you like live presentations?
I
Am I
do,
gonna
but
have to cut this?
I love watching certain people present, especially if they're engaging. If I'm yawning in their session, that should be a really bad sign to them because that means they've triggered my ADHD. It's the truth. That means that they're not engaging me. I enjoy even more to have time with that person one-on-one and talk to them, ask them questions. I'm an interactive learner.
I will note you're doing quite a few of keynotes this year. So how do you make sure when you're speaking that you want to talk to someone like you? Do you do that, or do you have a plan? I always try to write to myself or speak to myself and think, if I was in their situation, what would I want to hear?
That's exactly what the keynotes that I'm doing this year. Every keynote that I do is specially written for that event. I have 5 this year that are scheduled already. And I have met with everyone, well, 4 of those so far, I should say, not 5. But 4 of those groups I have already met with and found out who is their audience, what is their audience really interested in. I've given them examples of what I think will come across as a great topic, and they've all come back and given me agreements, and now I'm moving forward with actually building out that content for that keynote. But each keynote will be unique to that event.
Nice. I so far I've not only agreed, but I've kind of identified with a lot of things you said, except for one of them. If I'm yawning and falling asleep in your presentation, it's because you piqued my mind. I've started thinking about something you said, and I'm tired. And I'm just like, wow, really? That's a good idea. And all of a sudden you're like, hey, what time is it? I might have fallen asleep a few times in a few presentations.
I didn't hear that. I know nothing. That's all right.
It's usually because I'm not a person that gets up early in the morning and stays up till 3 in the morning. The 3 in the morning, yes. The getting up again, no, I don't do
that. And we know about me. I get up way too early in the morning and freak people out when I answer them at 4 a.m. Yeah.
I do not do that. I don't get up at your 4 in the morning.
I'll be in bed by 6 p.m. though. That's what's so weird about it. As soon as it's dark, I'm like in bed going, I'm in my happy place. So yeah.
Oh man, that's okay. Another thing, I do not identify with you at all. Not whatsoever.
I'm an odd duck. I know it. I approve of this. And all 3 of my children that I raised, I have 5 kids, in our family, but the 3 that I raised, they're all night owls and I don't understand them at all. It was murder for me as a parent.
Oh, when I was young, I could have been getting up right now.
Yeah.
getting ready to start the day. And not that I went out and did fun stuff. I probably played tennis or stuff like that, not partying or anything like that. So
if we want, I could text my youngest right now, and I bet my youngest is waking up right now. So yeah. Yep.
So the next thing, I want to get a little personal information. I want to find out not just what people do for work, but what people do for fun outside of technology, outside of working with databases. And it can actually be working with technology as well. But, I want to see, because the diverse set of hobbies and habits I've come across, I know people who race cars. I know people who go to theme parks. I know other people who go to theme parks as well as myself. I know people, I'm always amazed by the big breadth of things people do. So
pretty much behind me is one of them. My Legos are pretty vast and way too many, and they're going all the way down the shelves here. Yes. Yeah. It's an obsession. I keep myself in Legos by going off name brand. Otherwise I'd be broke and I wouldn't be able to take care of my adult children. I also love Raspberry Pi. So when I was in Cambridge at our headquarters, I made sure that I went to the Raspberry Pi store. And
Wait, is that a computer you had in your hand there? Is that
yeah, it's a Christmas tree. You hook up to, this is a hat, hooks onto your Raspberry Pi. and then you can code on it and do different light displays.
I don't need to know that.
There you go. There you go. I also last year for one of the Microsoft events, one of the little Azure events, I put a Raspberry Pi inside this and it spun around the Christmas tree and played Christmas music and put the
Nice.
code up there. So yeah, I combined the two hobbies between Raspberry Pi and Lego.
Very nice. Yeah, I've sort of fallen out with Lego I can't destroy them. Like I've got a ship over there. It's taking up a lot of space and a lot of dust, but I cannot get rid of that ship, and I can't buy something else to take its place. And so I have a few boxes still. My wife actually broke down and made the Grogu and a helmet that she got me for Christmas a few years earlier because I was like, no, I just can't.
So what I do is I end up going through my collection and clear things out. I take them all apart. I put them in a little plastic bag, seal them nice with the instructions, which I keep in a box. And I put those in my little library up at my street. It's my way of giving back to my community. I put a little library up there and then felt guilty because I don't get any hardcover books. Everything's on my Kindle. And so my contribution is Legos. So I put Legos in there and people come and the kids know in the neighborhood they can come in and I'll always have Legos in there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I should do that. Have a lot of sets in a box in my garage.
Yeah. And since I
Especially the
do
little
little
package.
ones,
Yeah.
my attention span will not usually do the really big ones. I've got like a castle there, but most of the time I don't do really big ones because yes, I will lose my focus. I'll just do little ones. And so they're perfect to just put into a little plastic bag with the instructions, put it in there and it works great.
And which castle do you have?
That was right there.
Yes.
There's a castle. It was a present from my previous company for Christmas. And this is the fault. All these Legos are the fault of Tracy Bogerano, Mala. People in the Microsoft community started me on this path a couple years ago, getting them for my birthday and stuff.
Nice.
I'm just letting you know, you can blame them.
No, when you said castle, I thought it might be Cinderella's castle. So I was checking,
I do not understand the need for pink and purple Legos. I do not understand that one bit. I grew up on Legos. Why do we have girl versus boy Legos? It does not make sense. So I'm just going to put that out there. Legos is Legos. Yeah. Like here's like Loki.
Yes.
I love all the little characters, And of course, we have all our Redgate characters inside the coffee house here too.
I only have Grant. I need to actually break down and pick them up every year. I'm always leaving things. I'm always leaving things for other people and figuring I'll pick them up later and never picking them up.
I'm going to try to get this out. They're all in the coffee house getting Starbucks. Just letting you know, we all have to drink Starbucks.
Nice, nice, nice.
And I believe we get to blame Eric Peterson for that, who told me I needed to put them all in the coffee house. So there we go.
Okay, so swinging away from Lego because
yes, otherwise I'll go forever.
A primarily technical. So I have a question from this year's Redgate State of the Database Landscape.
Lay it on me.
And you can read the entire report at the Redgate's website. The URL will be in the show notes. I'm not going to read it out. It's very long. The question here today is about the longevity of organizations using platforms versus the longevity of the users using platforms. So I'm going to put up a graphic here from the report, and it's the length of time using platforms. If you want to see the entire one, you can come to the video of this. But I want to read the stats for how long people have been using different platforms. More than 5 years. It was over 2,000 people who responded to the survey. The people that have been using SQL Server have been using them for over 5 years was 92%. For MySQL, it was 54%. For Postgres, it was 33%. For Oracle, it was 80%. For MongoDB, it was 31%. And for Snowflake, it was 14%. And we went over this last week in an episode that we did. That have been released on March 6th, 2025. And the inference was that people who are using these platforms would be older. And that was the thing that we talked about. How do you feel about that? Do you think that this really corresponds to age, or just how long the organizations have been using a platform?
I think it's a little bit of both. We need to remember that most of the folks that are answering this survey are going to be more SQL Server centric.
Yes.
They may have come across Oracle earlier in their lives because they've been a database for a long time. Everywhere that I went, I was trained for Oracle and was exposed to SQL Server right away. Everywhere I've gone, they would say, oh, we don't need your SQL Server, we need your Oracle, or vice versa. Within 6 weeks, we would find something mission critical on the other. Plain and simple. So that's normal. In the Oracle world, I usually gauge it by who's at events, no matter if it's local, no matter if it is one you have to travel to. They're getting older. They're definitely getting older. So you showed me a graphic the other day.
Yes, of a tweet. And it was from @ThatJeffSmith on X. And it says, Oracle is dying. Only the graybeards live there. And it's in quotes. And then he says, checks analytics for ye old blog, which is thatjeffsmith.com. I think I have put that up. Thatjeffsmith.com. And it doesn't have numbers for percentages, but the 18 to 24 line is really long. The 25 to 34 line is smaller. 35 to 44 smaller. It gets smaller and smaller until the 65 plus and 55 plus are very small amounts of the group of people reading this. How did you feel about this graphic?
Well, Jeff, as well as myself, are both considered some of the new kids on the block. I mean, we're both younger, and I don't know what that's saying about us, because if you're looking at Jeff's hairline or me being in menopause, we're not that young anymore. 2, I think that graphic would tell you a lot more if you provided more context, such as where are these individuals who are going to his blog coming from? I think they've done a really incredible job when you start to look in India and Pakistan and Thailand and China of getting younger people interested in Oracle. That's not so in the US. Also, because of what Jeff writes on, he writes really functional blog posts, which I love. I happen to love that. Not a lot of the graybeards do. They are reading Tanel Potter, Jonathan Lewis. They're looking at really deep level stuff because they've been taught if you don't know those intricacies about Oracle, you're not really doing Oracle. Where Jeff is very functional, and younger people are going to be interested in that because they're trying to learn. A lot of that content isn't out in the documentation. We've joked internally, as I have written inside Redgate over 250 pages worth of documentation, and I have threatened to publish it as a book and call it all the documentation that Oracle forgot to write.
It's pretty difficult. I tried to get you to publish that on our site. So
yeah, I mean, it is difficult, and we're aware of this. There's a lot that as we start working in Oracle over years and years and years, just automatically know and don't realize what it looks like from somebody who is learning. And yet Jeff's been very good about documenting that. I know I have sat in meetings within the last year with somebody who hated my blog and really wanted it destroyed, next to somebody who said, your blog, I tell everyone, is absolute necessary reading because it explains everything. You do a great job. And I'm like, please don't say that very loud. The person next to you is not going to be thrilled about that because they think everything should be really, really deep level and talk about all the intricacies of the internals and, all the stuff that not many people are using day to day. Jeff writes stuff that people are going to need day to day. So it's going to bring people who are learning, and they're going to be younger. I think there's a lot of context missing from that.
There's a tremendous amount of context because it's one blog and it's one person. Plus, I have no idea how you find out the ages of your readers. I don't think I have that stat available to me.
Yeah. It's
'Cause
if you
I'm not
pay, it's the
asking.
paid for version in the stats. Yeah, it's the paid for version in the stats for your blog.
Well, even still, how do you? I don't think do I tell in my? Do people tell in their online personas enough about their age?
Interesting. Now that I don't know. I think there should be an other in there too, where undisclosed. I would think that data would be there as well. Yeah, you're right.
I don't tell Google how old I am. I guess maybe you do when you tell them your birth date, but I would hope they're not using that to tell people about my age.
Yeah, they're all
Because
watching.
Sonny, I just can't take that sort of stuff. No, but I would agree. Um, as much as older, and by okay, older, that's not about it. I mean, like in age, people who have used the platform longer are going to look at documentation less. They're not looking at documentation. We're just looking at it less. And
This
newer
is
people are asking Chat
yeah.
GPT and Copilot, how do I do this more than, and then coming to sites like this more than we are, obviously.
We were talking about what drove me to understand that a lot of the fundamentals were missing from the documentation is that I was frustrated with some developers. I was like, why aren't they reading? Why aren't they learning on their own? And I went out to link the documents as I was writing them and realized I couldn't find the answers to back up what I was saying. And that blew me away. I didn't realize that we'd stopped teaching the fundamentals, one, because either we thought people already knew them, or two, many people were going to the cloud and we had past solutions and they didn't need to know the fundamentals. And I had learned that early on, that I had heard from many a cloud vendor, you don't need to know how it works because customers don't need to know how it works. I think that's part of being a technologist, is that we have a curiosity and we want to understand how things work. And when we don't, that leads us to assumptions, and assumptions lead us to mistakes.
I 100% feel that if you don't know what your programs are doing, you're not really a programmer. You're just
But
a
there's
user.
a lot of black boxes out there. We have to
But you need
admit
to know
that,
what the black
Louise.
boxes do. You need to not in
Yeah, I
detail,
agree with you.
but
Yeah.
enough to know, like AI. If you're programming AI and you're training AI, it's probably good to know that it uses vectors and it does math and it. You don't need to know how. You don't need to be able to replicate it yourself. Like I know a lot about the internals of SQL Server. Could I write the internals of SQL Server? Not in my lifetime. But I
But
do know how it comes up with a plan. It checks this, it tries this, it does this.
but
I don't
our
go ahead,
state of the database report even stated that there was a high percentage of people that were concerned, because of the black box that AI was, that they weren't investing in it yet. So that is a huge problem. That there isn't explainability. Explainability is a big deal. And that's not just for
of
AI.
course.
We see that in cloud services as well.
And I'm not talking about users. Like if you're
Yeah.
using AI and you're not trying to program it and you're just trying to ask it questions, you don't have to know. Like I don't know how my car works, right? I'm not a car gearhead. I get in, I press the button, the car comes on, I drive places. If I have problems with it, I call the car company. That's fine. If I'm a mechanic and I start working on parts of the car and I don't even understand it, um, internal combustion engine whatsoever, that's when it becomes a problem for me. When you're telling things how to work, you're getting in the details, but you don't care about the lower details. Like
But
when you write
even,
C sharp, you should know that's being turned into machine code and choosing
yeah,
these registers and things. And integers are faster than numerics because one's using the register and one's having to do it in software and sending it to the floating point, and vectors and all this stuff works a certain way. If you don't know that, you don't know why one's better. You're just like listening to what anybody tells you and just following along.
but I want to say, even if you know how vectors work and you know how AI works, you may not know where the data is coming back from. And that's where explainability
Oh, for
comes
sure.
into play. And
Yes.
that's that garbage in, garbage out. There's a really good paper about Google researchers researching some inaccurate data that was out on their websites. And they're trying to trace it back where it was coming from. So they ended up using Gemini to try to trace it back. And Gemini was bringing back the same bad data. And they realized it was because Gemini was getting the bad data from the same place that the actual websites were. So that is part of that problem, that if you don't know where the data is coming from that's feeding AI, it doesn't matter if you know how vectors work or anything else, it isn't explainable.
It's a lot like when I'll go back to the car analogy. I go to the car pump, I put the little pump in my gas. I
Yeah,
trust that that gas is good gas. It could be half water, and I would not know until the car stopped working because
exactly.
we trust, and that's kind of what we get into. And sometimes that trust is mistaken because they're
It
bad gas,
smells like gas. Yeah,
there's
it smells
bad
like gas.
AI, there's poor
Yeah.
coding. So is there anything else you'd like to say or talk about before we close up shop here?
I think the main thing is that there's a lot of events that are coming up that I'm going to be speaking at. They're anything from Microsoft to DevOps to Oracle. So if you see me there, don't get confused. I am all over the board right now. I am very busy working with the Redgate teams as we build out products, and that's enjoyable for me. I mean, anytime that I get to work deeper in tech, I'm happiest. It also keeps me out of trouble, which is always good too. And then you'll see me on a lot of podcasts. So as people start to, watch and go, is that another podcast that Kellyn's on? Yeah, I'm doing podcasts and keynotes this year. That seems to be my jam, and I'm enjoying it. And other than that, and Legos, that's my world.
Do you carry Lego with you so you can work on a plane or
I have done that.
have
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. And then, this year we're going to have, can she come out of here? And we're going to have a Kellyn Lego.
Oh man.
I get my own figure this year. So yeah, everybody's gonna have to look, and I don't know. That sounds a little weird to say collect your own Kellyn. I don't know if there should be more than one Kellyn, but okay, okay, we'll leave it at that.
So that'll be all of them, right? We had
Yeah,
Kathy,
yeah.
Grant,
Kathy, Grant,
Steve.
Ryan, they're all in there. They're all having coffee and enjoying themselves.
Will there be a Lewis Lego someday?
There could be a
No.
Lewis Lego too.
Is there enough
Yeah,
plastic for that? I
yeah,
just
and
don't
we'll
know.
we'll get your hat. I mean, Steve has his hat. Why can't you have your hat and your glasses? There you go. If you're unaware, I have made figures for a number of my friends. So you can ask like Tracy, she has her own Lego figure. I made her and sent her.
Nice.
So it's fun. Yeah, it's really fun to find Lego figures and faces and everything that actually looks like your friends and send it to them.
Have you discovered places like Bricklink where you can buy these things in bulk?
Yes. Yes. We have what are they called? The brick and figs stores here that I
Oh yeah,
go and toll through all the boxes and bins of Legos and get what I want. And yeah,
nice.
it's a weird obsession, but I enjoy it.
It's not a weird obsession. It's a fun obsession. It just takes space. I used to
It
try to
does.
build my own stuff. I made a couple things. I made a good Cinderella's castle that was little tiny micro scale Cinderella's castle that I really like, but
Well,
it just
stay
takes
tuned.
so much. It costs so much money to buy individual Legos and build your own.
I'm working on something. I can't show it to you. I can't say anything about it, but just stay tuned.
I feel like you're gonna have to share that at least
No,
with social media or something when it comes out.
when it comes out,
Yes.
Redgate will share it. Yeah.
Oh, Redgate will share it. Nice. Fancy. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put up your contact information.
With
This
my
is
AI headshot, we have to joke about the AI headshot because
AI
that is
headshot.
me. But as we joke about, I have found ways that we use AI to combine all my pictures to come up with new pictures. And no, I do not own that shirt.
I will I will not make fun of your AI headshot at
It's
all. That's
awesome.
not
I
for
didn't
me.
have to pose for any of them.
You'll have to go to the video if you want to see the AI headshot. Or that will probably be the headshot that is used on the title card. Who knows?
Yeah.
All right. So you're an engineer and advocate at Redgate, an AI advisor at Silk, a co-leader of the Microsoft Data Community DEI user group, quarter of a century in database administration, design and optimization, focus on Oracle, SQL Server, and MySQL. And online content via handle DBA Kevlar
Yes.
on Blue Sky. Website is dbakevlar.com. LinkedIn is not DBA Kevlar. strangely enough.
I'm still Kellyn Gorman out there. Yeah. Yeah.
Kellyn in Gorman.
No,
Wait, no,
Kellyn Gorman. Yeah.
it's Kellyn Gorman. Yeah, there's only one in there.
And there's something going on right now with Microsoft products that it's constantly autocorrecting my name to Kelly. I've gotten so many emails this week to Kelly, and I've just started responding back, taking the last letter off everybody else's name.
I did see that
Yeah.
somewhere. Oh, that's right, because somebody we were emailing together about something had Kelly, and I was like, "Is that
They're
like,
not
did people,
doing
like,
it.
call you that?"
It's Microsoft. Yeah. It's just the autocorrect has gotten a little aggressive.
Autocorrect. I'll have autocorrect. Without it, we would all sound like idiots. But then with it, we all sometimes
Sound like idiots.
So it's
Yeah.
like, why did you change it to that?
Yep. Exactly.
All right, so it's been a lot of fun. Hope the people listening had as much fun as I did. Hopefully they'll listen to it many, many times over and over, so we can do this more and more.
At least once.
At least once. At least once. So get out there, subscribe, like this, blog about it, shout about it from the corner in front of your local Piggly Wiggly if you have to.
Don't have.
But at least tune in next time.
Yeah.
Okay, don't really shout about it in front of the Piggly Wiggly.
Your New Seasons, your Kroger, your Fred Meyers. Fred Meyers, that's a thing here. Yeah.
Not here. We have something called Food City.
Food City. Never
Food
heard of that
City.
one either.
We do
Missed
have
that
the
one on all
public.
my travels. Yeah.
The public. So in the South, we put the in front of everything. You go to the Walmart.
The.
Sometimes you pluralize it too. So it's the Walmarts. I don't know why.
That's
Sometimes I even
interesting.
catch myself doing it. It's
Huh.
embarrassing.
The kid's dad, he calls Whole Foods whole paycheck, which I think is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Leave
that
you
note.
with that. There you go. But thank you. Appreciate. I'm glad you had me here today.
I am totally glad you said yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. That's it. Bye.
Bye, everyone.